Welcome to the RMM Talkshow. I'm Rita Isiba, and together with my lovely co-host Margareta Sailer, we explore strategies and share insights in that redefine meaningful management.
We'll be talking about new work, inclusive leadership with a real emphasis on employee experience and engagement.
In today's episode, we're laying the foundation for our 6-part series. We'll be talking about building inclusive workplace culture. Inclusivity isn't just a buzzword, it's a fundamental aspect of modern workplaces. It's about creating environments where every employee, regardless of background, identity, or perspective, feels a sense of belonging and is empowered to contribute their best.
Absolutely, Rita. It's a really important topic. Inclusive work cultures can mean so much to individuals themselves and be so much for companies, because you can be more productive, you can go the extra mile just by creating that inclusive workplace culture. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this today because you have a lot of experience in that topic, as leading an organization, as being at university, lecturing about this subject, but also, being out there and talking to leadership teams and training them in figuring out how to create that very important inclusive work cultures. So I do have a question for you.
Okay.
I have a few, but tell me, why does inclusivity matter so much? What's your thoughts?
Wow, that's such a loaded question. I'm not even too sure from which angle I should start off, but the most basic thing for me is that inclusivity is where everyone has a seat on the table.
Right.
Just as the word says, inclusive, that we all are part of one unit.
Right.
Quite often when we talk about D&I, diversity and inclusion, the focus is quite often placed on diversity, and in my opinion, it's a bit of a distraction because I'm a firm believer that we are all diverse. Right? Yeah, that the emphasis should be that we need to ensure that there's a diverse workforce, even though quite a lot of workforces are already diverse. Then there's the element of equity, which means that everyone is treated equal. And most importantly is the factor of everyone feeling like they belong. Anyone from all different backgrounds, it's most important to foster a sense of belonging. And so inclusivity matters in all aspects of life, whether you're at work, whether you're part of a family, what your role is within friends. Do you feel included when you go out with your friends? In a relationship, do you feel that you're also an equal person in your relationship? Inclusivity is a very, very important aspect of our life. And it's interesting that only over the last 10, 20 years, it plays a crucial element in the employee experience of an organization. When you ask me, does inclusivity matter? Of course, it matters for the return of investment of the talents that you bring on board of an organization. It also matters if you are open to hear the suggestions in how to tailor or design certain products or services that you create. People then feel included in the decision making. If people are part of the decision making, then your product will reflect that's what you sell to your population. And that's where it all falls into diversity, because a diverse team that designs a product will clearly design a product that appeals to a lot of people. So in a nutshell, inclusivity does matter. What do you think?
No, completely. Inclusivity pays off. I think leaders who realize that have definitely, I would say, the nose ahead. They are in front of the game, and they're making sure, like you said, that they take the best parts of this diversity. Because if you think about it, we all grew up in different circumstances, different countries at different times, and there is an awful lot of experience in that.
Yes.
And if you get that together and you focus it on creating, like you said, a particular product or service, you take all of that experience and knowledge, and the reality is you form a better product.
Yes.
Because you know already what your customer wants by
Exactly.
looking at the experience of your people. So yeah, I'm completely with you. Building an inclusive workplace matters. I think it's also really important for the future now more than it ever was.
Yes.
It's really important to make that stand and say, we do believe, in equality. We do believe in including people regardless of their background, where they come from, what sort of preferences they have. It's about the attitude. What can you do?
Yes.
How do you solve the problem? Nobody cares what the surroundings are.
Yes.
But, we get you in, we hear you, we see you, we accept you,
I love that.
and we all focus on what is important, because in the end of the day, we work for companies, we want to get paid, companies want to make revenue, but we can make it easier for people. We don't have to make it hard, by just looking at the psychology of people and making them feel like they belong to something bigger and they can be themselves.
Exactly. And I think this is also a play though on society as well. If you make people who are perhaps not indigenous to the society, make them feel included, trust me, they will find it so much easier to integrate and contribute to the society. Just think about all the varieties of restaurants that we have.
Exactly.
Now imagine if the people didn't really feel included to set up a business and let us into the world of the culinary offerings, right? I'm talking about food again.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, inclusivity does matter, absolutely. I just wanted to add it there.
Yeah, I mean, we're touching on this a little bit already, to be honest, but I'm really curious what you think about why is it essential to have an inclusive working environment, to better engage and innovate?
Yes.
Is there anything else you might want to add to what we just sort of...
Yes.
Or any experience you might have had?
Yes, there's a mixture of things. So I do believe that there's certain elements in order for people to feel included.
Right.
And you mentioned some of them already.
Yeah.
For them to feel heard, for them to be able to contribute.
Right.
It's important that you structure the ability for people to communicate and collaborate. When I say structure, I mean you provide the tools, you provide a code of conduct and how to talk with each other. The leadership should also act as a role model. Sometimes I hear from certain leaders like, I'm not here to be a role model, but of course you are. Otherwise, I guess I understand where they come from when they say that, because quite often some of the people who lead a whole team or an organization tend to be actually technical experts.
Right, they run a business, right?
They run a business, but they're technical experts in their field. Like, for example, someone that used to be in charge of finances now find themselves in a leadership position of running a whole organization. And then they just have this tunnel-eyed vision of finances and they don't really hear or listen to the language of other departments which don't really relate to finance, right? So I do find it very, very necessary that communication, collaboration, acting as a role model are key elements. Creating informal get-together where people can exchange with each other, facilitating mixed teams to make sure that they also rotate departments, but also getting an understanding what other departments are doing as well. This way you can relate to someone even better and you have this informal bond and connection. I get you. And this also is a feeling of inclusivity. It's something really difficult to tailor because it is such a unique, humane experience. But if you start designing your culture from the start, and when I say start designing, you have to have a vision or a mission, what you want to achieve. What does it take to get there? And then you put together groups of people that will help you get to that goal. And these people, these performing teams, they need to feel like they're bonded as one unit. You can take many examples from entertainment, sports and music to see that when groups come together and work as one unit, as one machine, they can achieve great things.
Oh, completely.
And this applies to the company as as well in the workplace.
Yeah, completely. And I think you're absolutely right, because when it comes to engaging your employees, and I'm going back to some of the episodes that we already talked about, but it's about engaging that workforce and actually paving the way as a leader.
Yes.
So what sort of workforce do you want to create? What sort of future do you want to create? Actually ask yourself, because when you're in a leadership position, you're in a unique position. If you are a founder creating that company, you are quite often in a unique position to change the world even.
Yes.
Think about, I'm talking big inventions. I'm not just always talking about Elon, but think about how we invented light,
Yes.
or how we get around, or the internet.
Yes.
So with that in mind, you can deliberately think about what world do you want to see in the future. So is that leadership element in thinking about creating that inclusive work culture. And it is work, isn't it? Because
Yes.
I think at the moment we talk about it a lot, and it's important to have these conversations. And sometimes when we work with people, some of them are almost afraid of it, aren't they? Because there's so much going on in this world. They're afraid to say a word that is wrong. They're afraid to, are they doing the right thing? Are they not?
Yes.
Remember, we had that before. And I think it's really valid. So it's about breaking that down and being that leader that engages and understands, how does my person actually feel from this ethnic minority or somebody who hasn't gone to university? How do you feel in our company?
Yes.
And getting that constant feedback is so important.
That's the key word there, constant feedback.
Yeah.
Because only through dialogue will you really know how people feel or how they perceive the work they do or the contribution of their work to the company, right? So in this way, you'll be able to get their buy-in and they feel that they're part of making decisions as well. That is a powerful, powerful element of inclusivity.
Yeah, I think one of the sort of the other question that I had from you, because we talked a lot about, how can it, why is it essential and why does it matter so much? But I'm more interested to hear from your experience. How does it affect the team? When you have that inclusive workplace, how does it affect it? What's the pros, the cons? What have you seen from your experience?
Wow. Okay. So the first thing for me jumps out that what happens in a team where there's no inclusivity, right? You find, for example, high performing teams, and the only reason why they're high performing short term is because there's always one or two dominant star performers in one team and they pull everyone up. In the short term, it's great. Because you are allowing this star performer to shine, and this star performer kind of dictates which pace and which method the team works in order to get ahead. But I emphasize again, this works on the short term. On the long term, people are going to drop out. They feel quite underrated on their expertise or the potential contribution that they can have. They feel ignored. They feel that they're in the shadows of the person who is considered as a star player. That is a key example of not feeling included in the contribution or the outcome or the results of a team performance.
I get it. I think the thing is as well with teams, if you think about it, like you said, it's about, if you have two star performers, great. But what if they leave or they're not there from one day to the other? It's when you lead, it's about focusing on what your person can do. So what attributes do you see? Like disregard where they come from and what they've done, but look at their attributes. What is Rita good at? What is Maggie good at? And nurture that as a leader, right? Push that, pull that out and make it work in your team and create that feeling. So.
And I also would like to emphasize that this shouldn't just hang on the leadership. This is for every person who is a member of a team to learn to appreciate each other's quirks as well, because we all have certain quirks. There's always this one person that is perhaps disruptive. Perhaps there's this one person that takes a while until they reach a decision. There's perhaps one that always has something to criticize. Everyone has a particular role to play. But if you find ways to highlight the strengths and kind of get over the quirks, it's just magic that you can
It is,
create.
isn't it? I know.
Making sure that everyone feels included.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, sort of final question that I have, and maybe it's some tips that you have. But if you think about tools that could work well to create that inclusivity, and we mentioned quite a few before, but do you want to sort of summarize or tell us about some tools that you find are really good, or what you could do to sort of harness that inclusive
yes
work?
So tools for me are, without naming some names, the right tools that I think that you can use are those that give transparency, so everyone kind of knows what's going on, even though they're not perhaps part of the decision. So anything that can give you the transparency, either an intranet or a form of collaboration tool, or perhaps just the internal newsletter to keep everyone updated on what is happening. Transparency is key, and if you have a tool to be able to disseminate this information to everyone or spread this information to everyone, this is really, really crucial as part of inclusivity. Another tool which I really love is one where you make sure that people have an internal intranet perhaps to keep themselves updated on certain knowledge or skills within their own pace. Because there are some teams that perhaps get more preferential treatments in developing their knowledge and skills more than others. An example would be maybe like the sales team or business development team. They will perhaps have the opportunity to go to a lot of training to learn different skills and techniques on how to sell. But this works for everyone, right? Exactly. Even the person who, I don't know, who is in the legal team, it's also an advantage for them to learn how to sell or how to persuade, right? So I do think it's also important, and this is not really a tool, but it can be made as a tool if you provide micro-learning opportunities in form of a tool, so people can always keep themselves updated. This is also a very powerful element of fostering inclusivity, even though you won't automatically think that. But everyone wants to be better. No one wants to be left behind.
No, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I mean, one thing that comes to my mind is actually in some of the companies I've worked with, there was one company I absolutely loved it. They actually, I think it was monthly or was it annually or something like that, quarterly. They brought their employees together and they could cook something from their home country where they came from. And so they got together as teams and then they could talk a little bit about the heritage and the food and where it came from. And it really sort of connected people. You know, we are humans, we need to eat. It's just part of our natural habitat. And we also herd animals, actually. We like being in groups, you know, we like having a conversation. So I thought actually there was a really good way of connecting people, getting them to talk, but also showing the unique background that you have and making people understand, you know, why, you know, maybe naturally my voice is louder because that's part of my culture, or why naturally my voice might be a lot lower and I speak softer, or, you know, I'm just very quiet in general and I observe because it's in my nature, right? So I love that idea. So there's some really good things you can do, and exactly,
I agree.
That go together. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Rita, for talking to me about, you know, building that inclusive work culture.
Thank you. I always like rubbing minds.
Exactly. For many more to come.
I'm really curious also to hear the inclusivity experiences, the faux pas, or what really worked well as well from the audience.
Drop us a line, put it into the comments.
Thank you for joining us in this discussion. That's it for today's episode.
Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more insights and inspiration on building inclusive and engaged organizations.
Until next time, remember that inclusivity isn't just a goal.
It's the key to unlocking the future potential of people.